She looked me dead in the eye and said, "I don't know why I keep doing this." And that scared me more than anything else. The wine in my glass had gone warm, but I barely noticed. My fingers tapped against the kitchen counter, nervous, uneven beats, like a song missing its rhythm. Across from me, Sarah's face was half lit by the dim yellow bulb above the stove, shadows pooling under her eyes. She looked exhausted. Not the kind of tired that comes from a long shift, but the kind that sinks into your bones and makes a home there. "I told Mark I was working late," she said, voice flat. "But I wasn't. I was in some guy's apartment. A stranger, basically." She swallowed hard, like the words themselves were bitter. "I don't even remember his name." The fridge hummed in the silence. I wanted to say something, anything, but what do you say to that? "It's okay, it wasn't." "You'll figure it out." She clearly hadn't. Sarah twisted the stem of her glass between her fingers. "I keep thinking, maybe if I just stop going out, stop putting myself in those situations, it'll fix itself. But then I do it anyway. Like I'm on autopilot." I'd seen her like this before, after the first time, the second time, the fifth. Always the same cycle, the guilt, the self-loathing, the I don't know why, but this time felt different. This time it wasn't just a confession. It was a cry for help. "You remember that guy from the festival?" she asked suddenly. I nodded. The one she'd kissed, then swore was just a drunken mistake. "Yeah, well." She let out a shaky breath. "I didn't tell you the whole story. We didn't just kiss. I fucked him in my car like some trashy hookup." Her voice cracked on the last word. I flinched. Not because of the sex, hell, we'd talked about worse, but because of the way she said it. Like she was disgusted with herself. Like she was watching her own life from the outside and didn't recognize the person in it. "Sarah," I started carefully, "have you ever thought about talking to someone? A therapist, maybe?" She barked out a laugh. "What, so they can tell me I'm screwed up because my dad left?" "Yeah, no shit." I stayed quiet. She wasn't wrong, I'd wondered the same thing. But it wasn't just that. It was the way she lit up when men looked at her, like their attention was a drug. The way she'd chase that high, even when it left her hollow afterward. She slumped forward, elbows on the counter, head in her hands. "I love Mark. I do, but sometimes." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Sometimes I think I'm just waiting for him to figure out I'm not worth it." My chest ached. This wasn't just about sex. This was about a woman who'd spent her whole life trying to fill a hole inside her, and no matter what she threw into it, men, alcohol, reckless decisions, it never stayed full. The clock on the wall ticked loudly. Somewhere outside, a car door slammed. Normal sounds. Normal night. But sitting there, in that too bright kitchen, it felt like the world had tilted just enough for everything to slip out of place. And the worst part? I had no idea how to fix it. Sarah wiped her nose with the back of her hand, smudging her mascara further. "You know what's messed up? When I'm with them, in the moment, I feel powerful. Like I'm in control. But then after, her breath hitched. After, I just feel disgusting. Like I'm right back to being that little girl waiting on the porch for a dad who never came home." The air between us felt charged, like before a storm. I reached for her hand again, and this time, she let me take it. Her fingers were ice cold. "I don't want to be this person," she whispered. Outside, rain started tapping against the window. The kind of soft, steady rain that usually felt comforting, but tonight just made the kitchen feel smaller, like the walls were closing in. "You're not just this one thing," I said, squeezing her hand. "We all have shit we're working through." She gave me a watery smile. "Yeah? You ever fuck a stranger in a parking lot to feel something?" The bluntness of it made me laugh, despite everything. "Okay, fair point. But you're not." I know. I'm not defined by it." She rolled her eyes, but there was no real heat behind it. "Doesn't change the fact that I keep doing it." A car passed by outside, headlights sweeping across the ceiling. For a second, the shadows stretched long and thin, like fingers reaching. Maybe, I said slowly, you should talk to Mark. Sarah stiffened. Are you kidding me? Hear me out. Not about specifics, but about how you're feeling. The big stuff. The why. She yanked her hand back. Oh, sure. Hey, honey, I keep cheating on you because my daddy didn't love me enough. That'll go over great. I didn't say it'd be easy. But keeping it all bottled up isn't working, is it? She opened her mouth, then closed it. The fight drained out of her shoulders. No, she admitted. It's not. The rain picked up, drumming harder against the glass. Sarah stared at her reflection in the dark window, a ghost of herself hovering just beyond the reach of the kitchen light. I'm scared, she said, so quiet I almost didn't hear her. Of what? She turned to look at me, her eyes red-rimmed and exhausted. That even if I stop, I'll still be this broken. That this is just who I am now. The fridge clicked off, plunging the room into sudden silence. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barked. Normal sounds. Normal night. But nothing about this felt normal anymore. The microwave clock blinked 2:17 a.m. in garish green numbers when Sarah finally broke the silence again. Remember that summer after high school? She asked, tracing a water ring on the counter with her fingertip. When we'd drive out to Miller's Point and just sit on the hood of your car for hours? I nodded. Back then, the future had felt infinite, all possibility and no consequences. Sarah's finger stilled. I think that's the last time I remember feeling okay. Just okay. Not happy, not sad. Just. She made a vague gesture with her hands. Present. A gust of wind rattled the window pane. Down the hall, the faucet in the bathroom dripped steadily, a sound I'd normally tune out, but now it felt like a metronome counting down to something. I keep trying to chase that feeling, she continued. Like if I can just get enough, something, I'll finally feel real again. Her laugh was hollow. Turns out dick isn't the magic cure I thought it'd be. The crude joke fell flat between us. I watched as she absent-mindedly picked at a hangnail until a bead of blood welled up. She didn't even flinch. You should sleep here tonight, I said. Sarah shook her head. Mark thinks I'm at my mom's. And when you go home tomorrow? She shrugged, that same defeated motion I'd seen 100 times before. I'll figure it out. I always do. But that was the problem, she wasn't figuring it out. She was just getting better at hiding the damage. I stood abruptly, the chair leg scraping against the linoleum. Come on. Where? Just come with me. I led her down the darkened hallway to my bedroom, where the street light outside cast long shadows across the floor. From my closet, I pulled out an old shoebox, the kind that held more memories than shoes. Sarah frowned as I handed it to her. What's this? Open it. Inside were photos from that summer at Miller's Point. Sarah squinting against the sunset. Both of us with ice cream dripping down our wrists. A Polaroid of her leaning against my car, grinning like she hadn't a care in the world. Her breath caught. Jesus. We looked so young. You were happy, I said quietly. She touched the edge of one photo, her fingers trembling slightly. I didn't even realize it at the time. The bedroom light flickered, just once, but it made us both look up. For a split second, I thought I saw something shift in Sarah's expression. Not hope, exactly, but maybe recognition. Then her phone buzzed on the nightstand. Mark's name flashed across the screen. Sarah stared at it like it was a live wire. The moment stretched thin, fragile. When she finally reached for it, I couldn't tell if she was reaching toward salvation or ruin. And from the lost look in her eyes, I wasn't sure she knew either. Sarah's hand hovered over the buzzing phone, her fingers trembling like leaves in a storm. The screen cast an eerie blue glow across her face, highlighting the tear tracks she hadn't bothered to wipe away. I should answer, she whispered, but made no move to pick up. The ringing stopped. The sudden silence felt heavier than the noise. Then, almost immediately, it started again, more insistent this time. Mark wasn't giving up. I watched as Sarah's breathing turned shallow, her chest rising and falling too fast. She brought her knees up to her chin, wrapping her arms around them like she was trying to hold herself together. The phone vibrated its way toward the edge of the nightstand. "Sarah," I said gently, "you need to." "I know," she snapped, then immediately winced. "Shit. I'm sorry. I just..." Her voice broke. What do I even say to him? "Hey babe, just sitting here realizing I've been destroying our lives because I'm still that abandoned 7-year-old?" The phone fell silent again. This time, it stayed that way. Sarah reached out with one shaking finger and flipped the photos face down in the shoebox. "I can't look at these right now," she murmured. "It hurts too much." Outside, the wind howled around the corners of the house. The old oak tree in my backyard scraped its branches against the roof like it was trying to get in. I suddenly remembered how Sarah used to be terrified of storms when we were kids, how she'd crawl into my sleeping bag during sleepovers when the thunder got too loud. Now she just stared blankly at the wall, looking more exhausted than scared. "You remember Mrs. Henderson's therapy dog?" she asked suddenly. "The golden retriever they brought to school after my dad left?" I nodded. "You used to sneak out of class to go pet him." "Yeah." A faint smile touched her lips. "That dog knew I was messed up before I did. Wouldn't leave my side no matter how many times they tried to call him away." She picked at a loose thread on my comforter. "Sometimes I think I've spent my whole life trying to recreate that feeling, like I'm worth sticking around for." The confession hung in the air between us, raw and aching. Down the hall, the refrigerator kicked on with a loud hum. The digital clock ticked over to 2:43. Somewhere in the neighborhood, a car alarm started wailing, then abruptly cut off. Sarah's phone lit up again, not a call this time, but a text notification. We both saw the preview. "Just let me know you're safe, please." She made a small, wounded noise in the back of her throat. I reached over and took her hand, half expecting her to pull away again. But this time, she held on tight, so tight my knuckles ached. For the first time all night, she didn't feel cold. She felt like a live wire, buzzing with all the things she couldn't say. The storm outside rattled the windows. The photos in the shoebox whispered of simpler times. And Sarah sat perfectly still in the eye of her own hurricane, finally ready, maybe, to face what came next. Sarah stared at the text until her phone screen went dark again. The reflection of her hollow-eyed face disappeared into the black mirror of glass. 15 years, she whispered. I'd been lying to him for 15 years. Her fingers tightened around mine to the point of pain. Do you think people can really change? Or am I just stuck like this forever? Before I could answer, her phone buzzed again. This time it was a voicemail notification. Sarah's breath hitched as she reached for it with her free hand, her thumb hovering over the play button. Don't, I said softly. Not yet. She looked at me, really looked at me, for the first time all night. Her eyes were bloodshot, her mascara smeared like bruises beneath them. The girl from the Miller's Point photos was still in there somewhere, buried under years of bad decisions and self-loathing. I'm so tired, she admitted, her voice cracking. I'm tired of pretending. Tired of the lies. Tired of... She gestured vaguely at herself. All of this. The wind howled outside, rattling the window in its frame. A flash of lightning illuminated the room for a split second, freezing Sarah's face in stark relief, all sharp angles and shadows. In that moment, I saw her clearly. Not the party girl who could charm anyone, not the serial cheater, not even my oldest friend. Just Sarah. Broken. Scared. Human. Then stop pretending, I said. She barked out a laugh that sounded more like a sob. Just like that? Yeah. Just like that. I squeezed her hand. One honest moment at a time. Thunder rumbled in the distance. Sarah wiped her nose with the back of her hand and took a shaky breath. Okay, she whispered. Okay. She picked up her phone with trembling fingers. For a heart-stopping moment I thought she was going to call Mark. Instead, she opened her contacts and scrolled down to a number simply labeled Dr. Rosen. You kept your therapist's number in your phone this whole time? I asked. Sarah's smile was small but real. Guess part of me always knew I'd need it eventually. She hit dial before she could change her mind. The phone rang once, twice, then went to voicemail. Of course it did. It was 3 a.m. But Sarah left a message anyway. Hi Dr. Rosen, it's Sarah Whitmore. I'd like to schedule an appointment. As soon as possible. A pause. I think I'm ready to do the work now. When she hung up, the air in the room felt different. Lighter, somehow. The storm outside was passing, the rain slowing to a gentle patter against the roof. Sarah curled up on my bed, hugging a pillow to her chest like she used to when we were teenagers. Can I stay here tonight? She asked, already half asleep. Yeah, I said, pulling the blanket over her. Of course. As I turned off the light, I caught one last glimpse of the shoebox of photos on the nightstand. The top picture had flipped face up again, Sarah at 17, grinning with her arms thrown wide, standing on the hood of my car at sunset. Maybe, just maybe, that girl wasn't as far gone as we'd both thought. Sarah's breathing had just evened out into sleep when her phone buzzed again. The screen lit up the dark room like a flare, Mark's name flashing once more. I reached to silence it, but her hand shot out and grabbed my wrist. She wasn't asleep after all. We both stared at the phone as it vibrated against the nightstand. The sound was too loud in the quiet room, like the insistent pulse of something neither of us could ignore anymore. You don't have to answer, I murmured. Sarah swallowed hard. I know. But this time, she picked it up. Her thumb hovered over the screen. The call went to voicemail again. Silence. Then, almost immediately, it rang a third time. Mark wasn't just worried now, he was terrified. Sarah exhaled sharply and swiped to answer. Hey, she whispered. The voice on the other end was muffled but frantic. I could only make out snippets. Where the hell, been calling for hours, thought something happened. Sarah closed her eyes. I'm okay, she said. I'm at Jess's. A pause. Then Mark's voice, lower now, strained. Asterisk, you could have just told me. Asterisk. Something in Sarah's face cracked. I know, she said again, softer. Another pause. Longer this time. Asterisk, are you coming home? Asterisk. Sarah opened her eyes. She looked at me, then at the shoebox of photos, then down at her own hands, the bitten nails, the wedding band she still hadn't taken off. Yeah, she said finally. I'll be there soon. When she hung up, the room felt too still, like the air before a lightning strike. You're really going? I asked. Sarah nodded, already sitting up. I have to. But what are you going to say? She stood, running her hands through her tangled hair. I don't know. A beat. But for the first time in 15 years, it's not going to be a lie. The storm had passed, leaving the world outside washed clean and quiet. Sarah gathered her things slowly, methodically, keys, jacket, the shoebox of photos she tucked under her arm. At the door, she hesitated. Jess? Yeah? She didn't turn around. If I can't do this, if I chicken out, you'll call me on my bullshit, right? I didn't hesitate. Every time. Sarah nodded once, sharp. Then she stepped out into the night. I watched from the doorway as she got into her car. The headlights cut through the dark, bright and unwavering, until they disappeared around the corner. Somewhere in the distance, thunder rumbled one last time. But the storm, at least for now, was over. The hum of Sarah's engine faded into the night, leaving behind only the drip of rainwater from the gutters. I stood in the doorway longer than necessary, the cool air raising goosebumps on my arms. Something about this moment felt suspended, like when you're at the top of a roller coaster, that breathless second before the plunge. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A text from Sarah, "Tell me this is the right thing." I stared at the screen, thumbs hovering. The honest answer was I didn't know. But that wasn't what she needed to hear right now. "It's the brave thing," I typed back. "That counts more." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, I'm pulling over. Can't drive like this. When I called her, she answered on the first ring. I could hear the shaky inhale of a cigarette, a habit she'd quit years ago. "Found my emergency pack in the glove compartment," she said before I could ask. Classy, right? "Where are you?" 7-Eleven parking lot. "The one by the old movie theater." A pause. "I can see our high school from here." I could picture it perfectly, the flickering neon sign, the potholes she always complained about, the bench where we'd shared slushies after class. Sarah sitting alone in her car at 3:17 a.m., staring at the place where this all began. "I should have told him years ago," she whispered. "Now it's not too late." I cut her off before the thought could take root. "You left my house 5 minutes ago. That's 5 minutes sooner than you've ever done this before." She exhaled a plume of smoke. "When you say it like that." "Like what?" "Like I'm not already the villain of this story." The words hung between us, heavy with 15 years of unspoken shame. Somewhere in the background, a car door slammed. A voice shouted something unintelligible. Normal late-night sounds that made the moment feel even more surreal. "You're not a villain," I said finally. "You're just a person who fucked up. Like everyone else." Sarah made a small noise that might have been a laugh or a sob. "Mark deserves better than that." "Yeah. He does. No point sugarcoating it. But you deserve better than this too. The lying. The guilt. The fucking 7-Eleven breakdowns." The line went quiet for so long I thought we'd been disconnected. Then, so soft I barely heard it, "I'm scared." "I know. What if he—" "You don't have to do this tonight," I said. "Come back. Sleep here. Figure it out in the morning." Another long silence. The 7-Eleven sign buzzed audibly through the phone. "No," she said at last, voice steadier now. "If I don't do it now, I never will." Keys jingled. The car started. I could almost see the resolve settling over her features, that same stubborn set to her jaw she'd had since we were kids. "Call me after?" I asked. "Yeah." A deep breath. "One way or another." The call ended. I stayed in the doorway, watching the empty street where her taillights had vanished. The neighborhood was perfectly still now, no storms, no car alarms, just the occasional drip of water from the trees. Inside, the shoebox lid sat crooked on my nightstand where Sarah had left it. The corner of a single photo peeked out, a sliver of sunset, a fragment of a smile. I didn't know what would happen when she got home. Didn't know if this was the beginning of something better or the end of something long broken. But for the first time in 15 years, Sarah wasn't running away. And that had to count for something. The fluorescent lights of the 7-Eleven buzzed like angry hornets as Sarah crushed her cigarette against the pavement. She stared at the glowing ember until it faded to black ash, one small, final destruction in a night full of them. Her phone buzzed again. "Mark." She didn't answer. Not yet. Instead, she pulled out the shoebox from the passenger seat and flipped it open. The photos inside were slightly warped from years of storage, the colors faded but the memories still sharp. There she was, 18, sunburnt, grinning like the future was hers for the taking. There was Mark, younger, softer, his arms slung around her shoulders like it was the most natural place in the world for it to be. Her throat tightened. A rap at the window made her jump. A pimply-faced clerk leaned down, mouthing, "You okay?" Through the glass. Sarah forced a nod and rolled down the window. "Yeah. Just thinking." The kid, couldn't have been more than 19, shrugged. "Cool. Just checking. We get a lot of weirdos at this hour. Sarah almost laughed. You have no idea. As he walked back inside, she glanced at the clock, 3:42 a.m. Now or never. She picked up her phone and dialed. Mark answered on the first ring. His voice was raw. Sarah. I'm coming home, she said, cutting him off before she lost her nerve. But we need to talk. Really talk. A pause. Then, quieter, okay. That single word held more weight than anything else they'd said to each other in years. Sarah tossed the shoebox onto the passenger seat and put the car in drive. The streets were empty at this hour, the stoplights blinking yellow, the world holding its breath. She didn't know what would happen when she got there. Didn't know if this was the end or a beginning. But for the first time, she was driving toward the truth instead of running from it. And that had to be enough. Sarah's hands trembled on the steering wheel as she turned onto their street. The familiar rows of maple trees stood like silent sentinels, their leaves glistening with leftover rain. House after identical house slid past her windows until, there. Home. The porch light was on. A shadow moved behind the living room curtains. Mark was waiting. She killed the engine but didn't move. The dashboard clock ticked over to 4:03 a.m. Somewhere down the block, a sprinkler system hissed to life. The shoebox sat beside her, lid slightly askew. Without thinking, she reached in and pulled out the top photo, their first vacation together, Cape Cod, back when they still took photos and printed them instead of just letting them disappear into the cloud. Mark's arm was around her waist, her head thrown back in laughter. They looked happy. Were we ever really that happy? A sharp knock on the driver's side window made her gasp. Mark stood there, barefoot in pajama pants, his face drawn but alert. She rolled down the window. The smell of fresh-cut grass and damp pavement rushed in. You planning to sit out here all night? His voice was softer than she expected. Sarah swallowed hard. I'm scared, she admitted. Mark studied her face for a long moment. Then he reached through the window and gently pried the photo from her fingers. Yeah, he said quietly, looking at the image. Me too. He opened the car door. Sarah hesitated, then took his outstretched hand. Together, they walked toward the house, not running, not hiding, just moving forward one unsteady step at a time. The porch light flickered once as they crossed the threshold. Then the door closed behind them.